Welcome to the Sleep Sense Show. As always, brought to you by the Sleep Sense program, where podcast listeners can get a free customized sleep plan by going to www.sleepsense.net/listen.
Hi, this is Dana. Welcome to today's show. I can remember when my kids were little, we had good friends of ours visiting for a few days. And one morning I said to our company, okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm just going to run the kids to daycare. And I remember my friend sort of looking at me with a surprised look in his eye. And he said, why are you taking the kids to daycare? You work for yourself. And I kind of chuckled and thought, well, yes, I work for myself, but I still have to work. And so there's definitely some pros and some cons to being what I like to consider a mompreneur. And so I want to share those things with you today, both the good side and the bad of being your own boss, in case that's something that you're contemplating or considering at this juncture in your life. Just give you a little food for thought about what it really takes to be successful at running your own business. So I think that sounds really lovely to be your own boss. I think that for a lot of people, they daydream about that scenario, especially if they're not in love with their current job or their current boss. It's easy to start thinking about the grass being greener on the other side. And for me, I never really considered becoming my own boss. It's not something that I grew up with this vision of becoming an entrepreneur. I was a teacher and I went to college for that, and I thought I would be in a teaching profession for basically the rest of my life until I was ready for retirement. So I certainly didn't strive to make this a reality for myself. But one of the things that I think, for me anyway, has always been a strong motivator is unhappiness. I don't want to be the kind of person who works a job that's not really very fulfilling, or that they kind of go through their week just living for the weekend. And I know there's lots of people out there that do that. And so I'm not discounting that, putting food on the table and a house over your family's head is not an important goal for everyone. If that's the way it is for you, then that's admirable for sure. But for me, I just know that that's not a life that I want to live. I don't want to work all week for weekends and be unhappy in my job. For me, that's not an option. So when I was about to embark on my maternity leave with my first son, I really opened myself up to the possibility of something new coming my way. And I had no idea what that something new was going to be, but I did just, at the time when I look back on it, it sounds crazy, but I really did feel like something was coming. And I just needed to hold some space for it so that it could show up in my life. And I did have the beautiful luxury of having a full year of maternity leave, being a Canadian in the working force there. That is definitely a wonderful opportunity to take that time off with your children. And so I just did exactly that. I had a son, and I just was home with him, enjoying him, but still sort of keeping an eye out for what was going to be next for me. And long story short, you've probably already heard the story. I love to tell it. My son was a terrible sleeper right from the get-go, and sleep became a bit of an obsession for me in those first few months. And getting more of it was definitely top on that obsession list. So solving his problems really opened my eyes to the fact that, it wasn't just me suffering. I saw my friends and other new moms that I was meeting who were in the same boat, and there just wasn't a lot of opportunity for help, or there was no clear plan. There were lots of books, but there was nothing more. And that's sort of when it dawned on me that this was a little niche that I could perhaps fill, and stepped into that career of coaching parents one-on-one, helping them get their children sleeping well. And I have never looked back. It's almost 15 years ago now when I started the business, and I can definitely say that one of the top perks for me all of these years is that I really never have that dread. I used to call it Sunday night dread, where I'd start thinking about the week ahead and feeling dreadful about it and having a hard time sleeping Sunday night because of the stress of my job the next day and what all that entailed. And again, that's not a comfortable place to be, having Sunday night dread. And so I can say with all honesty, I've never had Sunday night dread since I started this business. And I would not lie and say that I'm skipping into the office every day, full of absolute glee. It is still a job. It's work some days, and it's some days even, really hard work, and work that maybe I would choose not to do if I had the opportunity. But for the most part, I am pretty fulfilled in my career. I love helping parents. That has never gotten old. I love, changing lives for the better, and getting everybody good quality sleep is still a huge priority for me. And also now this facet of my business to coach other women to become their own entrepreneur has been super rewarding for me, and a side passion that I love with all of my heart. I've helped over 200 women start their own careers as Sleep Sense consultants all over the globe, which is just an absolute honor. And I cherish that aspect of my career. So it's really grown and evolved, and it's changed, and every day's a little different, which is all stuff that I really enjoy. So that's definitely a perk. Another perk is that flexibility. I mean, that's the number one thing I hear from any of the consultants that come through my training program when they're in the exploratory phase of thinking of joining us. That's number one on most working moms' lists, is that flexibility. Teaching career is lovely because there's lots of time off for holidays, and you get summer break, and all of that is fabulous. But while you're working, you're looking at 10-hour days usually, with your planning time and grading papers and all that extra stuff. It's not just as simple as working a school day. So that part is definitely not fun for a lot of working moms. And we've had a lot of nurses come through our program, and corporate, and all those women who are in the workforce working long days. And that leads them to feel perhaps a little conflicted, right? They've got kids at home or a family, and it's that spot that every mom struggles in, that balance of how do I kind of keep a career going and see enough of my children, and, spend time with my partner and still have a great quality of life. And I think, we always focus on moms and how it's so hard for moms, but in all reality, I think work-life balance for anybody, man or woman, should be a consideration, right? It doesn't matter if you're the mom or the dad. If you have a family, you still want to and need to spend quality time with them when you can. So I've loved that opportunity to be flexible with my time. When I started this career, I was working around my husband's schedule, and that meant I was working some evenings and weekends. And that meant I didn't have to have childcare. We could keep our costs low. Obviously, giving up a stable income was a scary place for us to be, and not one that we had a lot of wiggle room around. I did need to make an income just basically to cover our expenses. So keeping costs as low as I possibly could when I started out was super important to the success of the business. And that's the way I ran it for a couple of years until my family grew and we had another son, and I got busy enough that I could have office hours. And so it evolved as our family evolved, which is, again, a huge perk, right? That a career, one that you've chosen, has that flexibility in the short and the long term. And that's one of the wonderful things I've seen happen with a lot of the women that have come through the training program is that when their kids are little, they're doing the same thing I did. They're kind of fitting this in where they can around naps and evenings and weekends. But as their children have grown, we've been running it now for 7 years. So some of those gals have seen their kids turn into school-age children, and now they're off to grade 1 and so on, and there's more time in a day, so they're now kicking up their workload a little bit more so that they can grow their business, and that is certainly a perk. Now, on the downside, right, I think going back to the story I told at the beginning, I think a lot of people think that being your own boss means that you're, laying on the couch all day watching daytime TV and eating bonbons, right? That's not the reality either. There is still work to be done. An entrepreneur's hours are flexible, not optional. So you still have to find time to put into your business, invest in your business, and work in and on your business. So that can mean that you are working a Sunday morning, or you're working a little later into the evening, which you wouldn't do if you were at a 9 to 5. So that can be a little hard sometimes to turn your brain off, right? To be really strict with yourself about, these are my work hours, these are my mommy hours or family hours, and working really hard to keep those two separate so that you maintain your sanity. I would say that that's a lesson all mompreneurs have to, at some point, come to terms with and, punch out, so to speak, mentally, so that you can be present in your life wherever you are, so you're not feeling conflicted or stuck between, am I a mom right now, or am I a businesswoman right now? Am I seeing clients right now, or am I going to play group? You can't do both. You can try, but you're going to burn yourself out really quickly if you do that. So, that certainly is both a perk and a con at the same time, sometimes even. So that's something to be really, really clear about with yourself if you're starting your own business. Another thing that I've loved about this business is that I have the earning potential. I set the expectations. I can remember being about 3 months into this business when I realized that I was making as much money monthly as I had been as a teacher and was working a lot less hours. So that's a beautiful thing when you sort of look at your own earning potential. And when you're your own boss, that's limitless, really. I mean, it can be whatever you want it to be. And again, watching my consultants come through the program, I always say to them, listen, your goal is my goal. So if your revenue goal is $20,000 a year or 50 or 80 or 100, it doesn't matter to me. It just matters that I help you reach your goal, whatever that looks like. And so again, seeing this evolve over the years, I have seen women come through and just start out, with 10 to 20 thousand being their goal, just a little extra for the family. And now that's growing year after year. We're into the 30s, 40s, 50s, even into 80 and 100 for some of my consultants. So that is glorious, because in a day job or corporate, you get a little raise every year or a bonus here and there, but earning potential can really max out. I mean, I think of teachers, for example, and, we can all commiserate that they're not paid as much as they should be paid for the important job they do. But even then, that maxed out. And going into it, I knew, hey, my earning potential is only ever going to be this much, and having to make peace with that at the time. But now with my career, I've grown it 6-7 figures. So, the sky's the limit as far as what I want to see show up for my business. I have to put the work in. Obviously, it's not magic, but, the sky's the limit for me as far as what I can turn this into. So that's definitely, I would say, for any business owner, a huge perk is that ability to create your own income. I would say one of the hardest parts about being your own boss is that it's very difficult to take an actual holiday. And, poor me, right? I never get to take a holiday. But when you think about anyone's work life, there's holiday time, right? You get a break. You get to check out and go recharge and step away from your business and have a break. Although I have noticed over the years that that's getting harder and harder for everyone, not just me. Not just being my own boss and having to keep my company running even when I'm away. But, my sister was just visiting. She works for a company. She is in a management role in her company. And they were bothering her while she was here on vacation. They were emailing her. She was getting text messages from her team, right? I think now that we've become so easily accessible, it is harder for everybody to turn that off while you're taking a break. And it requires you to be very disciplined and very clear with your boss and your team and your company that, hey, I am not going to be reachable. I am on a holiday, and that is okay, right? We need to really own that and be okay with the fact that, life will go on if I'm away from the office for a few days. But being your own boss, that's harder to do. It takes some planning, right? I can't really, on a whim, take a few days off or even take a day off if I haven't thought it through. So again, there's flexibility in there, but it still takes planning. It takes sort of strategizing. If I want to go on a field trip with one of the kids, I need a little bit of notice to kind of work my schedule around that. And that ownership role that I have, this is my baby, essentially, my business, that does make it harder to sort of shut off at the end of the day or shut off for a weekend or a break. And that's definitely a hard part. But again, that takes discipline. It takes a little bit of, okay, I'll just work for 1 hour and then I'm off or I'm on my holiday. So again, you can kind of fit it in as long as you're really clear about your own boundaries, which is super important. So in a nutshell, I think those are the sort of top cons or pros of being your own boss. I think for everybody, everyone, it doesn't matter if you're working a day job, working a side job, starting your own business, all of us are looking for fulfillment. We want to feel like we're doing meaningful work in the world, whatever that looks like. I think how we spend our time, our precious, precious time on this planet, should be spent doing meaningful work, whatever that looks like for you, that, fulfills you and feels like your higher calling or fulfills a vital role in other people's lives. So it doesn't matter what that is, but if you don't have that, I would encourage you to look around and think to yourself, what else is possible? What other opportunities could there be if I just kind of opened yourself up to the option of hearing it, right? Hearing your calling. You can't hear your calling if you're not paying attention. So open up to that possibility. And if you're at all interested in joining my team, becoming a Sleep Sense consultant, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find out more information about it on the website, sleepsense.net. And I would love the opportunity to chat more with you about it if it's something that's of interest to you. It certainly is for many a working mom a wonderful opportunity to have a very good income at low, minimal, manageable hour output. So thanks so much for listening today. As always, please sleep well.
Thanks so much for listening. For more great tips on helping your child sleep through the night, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher, and never miss an episode.